Good evening, everyone. I'm Lissy Bastian. It's great having you back with us. The remains of nearly 50 missing persons who perished in the killer storm Hurricane Dorian have yet to be identified and released to family members 3 months after the passage of the storm. The Minister of Health, Dr. Dwayne Sands, revealed as much today while providing an update on the missing persons report just outside of Cabinet.
In Abaco, there remains in the trailer in Abaco a significant number of bodies, I believe, probably about 50. I would have to be looking at my notes to get it exactly right. DNA samples have been taken, and the expected time from DNA sampling until comparison and conclusion could be as long as 6 to 9 months. That is the international standard or timeline, unless you use rapid DNA techniques. So yes, there are still a number of remains in Abaco.
Dr. Sands says in Grand Bahama, all of the remains were released to family members and that only 4 missing persons were identified and released to family members in Abaco.
In this instance, however, at that facility, to have a trailer sitting there for an indefinite period of time is not ideal. And so what we'd like to be able to do is to be very aggressive in terms of making it safe and easy for individuals to self-identify.
The health minister speculated that many persons may be afraid to come forward to report and or identify the remains of missing persons because of their immigration status. The next step, he says, may be for the government to include a third party to act as an intermediator for the process of identification. He adds that no progress has been made in discussions on a mass burial for the remains not identified. The unprecedented nature of Hurricane Dorian reconstruction is now a key priority of the government and has been added as one of the Prime Minister's official priorities within the Prime Minister's delivery unit, according to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis. And with an estimated total loss in damages and additional costs caused by the monster storm in the billions of dollars, the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, is hosting a donor pledge conference to actively seek to engage the private sector and philanthropic individuals who are well poised to help in the recovery efforts of the affected islands, the Abaco Keys, and Grand Bahama. UNDP's resident representative, Denise Antonio, in making the announcement this morning at the office of the Prime Minister, says it's an effort to reaffirm the support of the United Nations Development Program for the government and the Bahamian people, adding that this commitment is demonstrated both through the pledge of financial support and the presence of a team of professionals on the ground who have been working diligently in collaboration with the government to help drive recovery efforts.
It is imperative that we collectively develop a mechanism to facilitate this alignment as part of the new modality for development financing for Caribbean countries like the Bahamas. We are equally committed to securing the funds required to finance recovery projects and to ensuring that the people of the Bahamas are the ultimate beneficiaries. The level of devastation experienced on Abaco and Grand Bahama inevitably means that recovery would be a long, arduous process, but UNDP is confident that with the right mechanisms in place, we can, in partnership with stakeholders, achieve the outlined objective.
With the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation already confirming its full support for the pledge conference, Ms. Antonio appeals to all stakeholders who are equally as keen to create relevant partnerships that will help to advance recovery of the affected islands.
Local capacity building is also a welcome spin-off of UNDP's work. Through the invaluable partnerships created by our involvement on the ground, there is a tremendous opportunity for enhancing the capacity of the local population. This potential for capacity building also impacts positively on the country's long-term development prospects relative to crisis prevention and increased resilience. In advancing disaster recovery, one of the critical tools employed by the UNDP is the empowerment of the affected population.
The UNDP, in collaboration with UNICEF, plans to inject financial resources into the affected communities through a cash flow program that empowers those most affected. Dr. Minnis says the UN-sponsored conference is a part of a broader program and strategy for reconstruction led by the government of the Bahamas. The conference will leverage the resources of domestic and international private sector and corporate groups who want to partner with the Bahamian people and the government to rebuild affected areas and with more resilience, especially in light of the global climate emergency.
My government has already prepared specific reconstruction delivery plan, which have been cross-referenced with the damage and loss assessment. We have addressed 6 sectors: housing, the environment and debris cleanup, education, health, infrastructure, and the economy. From these reconstruction delivery plans, we have identified and prepared specific project concept notes. We are hopeful that the pledging conference will attract donations to address these specific projects. For example, and quite urgently, we are seeking to raise funds to complement the government's $10 million already given for home repairs.
United Nations Development Pledge Program Conference will be held January 13th, 2020 here in New Providence and is anticipated to galvanize support from the private sector, high network valued individuals and donors who have expressed an interest in assisting the Bahamas. It's up for discussion, and that's the issue of minimum wage increase, as the government's still unsure of when that increase will happen for public servants. Finance Minister Peter Turnquest, speaking with reporters before the weekly cabinet meeting, says the government does not have in its budget plan for this year, but discussions are going on with labor unions.
We do not have in our budget this year for a minimum wage. The Cabinet is still discussing the matter, so it would be premature for me to give any definitive statement on it. But as you know, we are in the middle of negotiations for a number of unions, and some are about to come up. So this will all be part of the discussions that we have going forward in terms of how we address all of the labor issues that are before us and try to settle all these matters as quickly as possible.
Last week, Prime Minister Dr. Minnis announced an increase in minimum wage for public workers, but no further plans were revealed. Opposition leader Philip Davis criticized the announcement and said that the government should sit down and examine how much it actually takes for workers to make ends meet before increasing minimum wage. But the DPM says his government supports a livable wage, and he encouraged the private sector to raise the minimum standards.
And we certainly want to encourage the private sector to do as much as they can to help us to raise that minimum standard. The government is looking at it from its own perspective as to what it can do to help to bring up the standard. And hopefully the private sector will see it within their capability, their business plans, to be able to do the same.
Dr. Minnis added last week that though public servants will see an increase in minimum wage, the private sector will have to wait as more consideration was needed. Hurricane Dorian destroyed many things in its path, and one of them being schools. That's why American High School Caribbean, an online school, is currently offering more than $50,000 worth of scholarships to students. Owner and director JCNTVNEWS explains the scholarship is aimed at helping those affected by the monster storm. So far, 10 students from Abaco and Grand Bahama have been admitted.
We would identify those who call in and speak with our counselors. And once our counselors identify that they are in a position of need or that they qualify, they'll be directed to Discovery Learning Center or to Global Conversations, where they will be aptly placed in the courses that they need and in the scholarship programs with the amounts that can be given to them.
Ministry of Education certified BJC and BGCSE courses are offered, as well as an international accredited American high school diploma through their dual credit diploma programs via visual education. You'll be happy to know that the need-based scholarship is also open to anyone who was not affected by the storm.
They seem to be adjusting well. I've spoken to the students, asked them what they like about the program, what they don't like about the program, what they would like to see added to it. For the most part, it's been mostly positive. It's just an adaptation or adapting to it, coming from where they were to here and now to work in an online environment. So the response has been very positive, especially from those in the United States who wanted something closely or more uniquely Bahamian, which we offer in terms of being able to tailor our courses to customize to the Bahamian way of learning.
American High School teamed up with Global Conversations Development Center to launch the school, which currently has 30 enrolled. A representative from the center, Tanya McFall, says you can earn your qualifications at your convenience.
Some of the benefits of the program is that students have the ability to access the platform 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we have students learn differently. So if we can accommodate the early morning risers and the late night workers, so students have the opportunity to put in their best effort. Additionally, parents have the opportunity to monitor the work of their children and the progress of their children. With our high school diploma course, students will take the language arts, the religious education, the various electives like our languages, and even culinary courses via our platform. And all the information is included on our website, including textbooks, which makes it a little more easier for parents, not stressing about finding money to purchase additional materials. So it's basically a one-stop shop.
Adult learners can also get qualifications in business, forensic science, nursing science, veterinary science, and more. To get further information, visit their website, ahscaribbean.org. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.